in the world of Zoom. So, ready to start? Welcome to the November 4 Chiefs and Sheriffs Management Committee meeting. Before we jump into the meeting, I will ask our clerk to confirm that we have a quorum. Barbara Jean?
Yes, thank you. Carlsbad PD Chief Neil Galucci,
Here.
Chula Vista PD Chief Roxana Kennedy,
Here.
Coronado PD Captain Jesus Ochoa,
Here.
El Cajon PD Chief Mike Moulton,
Here.
Escondido PD Captain Justin Murphy,
Here.
La Mesa PD Captain Ray Sweeney,
Here.
National City PD Chief Jose Telez,
Here.
Oceanside PD Chief Frank McCoy,
Here.
San Diego County District Attorney Assistant Investigator Joe Cargill,
Here.
San Diego County Probation Department Chief Adolfo Gonzalez, I'll come back to him because he was on. San Diego Harbor PD Chief Mark Stainbrook, sorry.
Here.
San Diego PD Assistant Chief Sandra Albrechtson, San Diego County Sheriff's Department Commander Teresa Adams Hadar,
Sandra Albrechtson is here. I'm sorry. I couldn't unmute quick enough.
thank you very much. Okay, San Diego PD, she's here. San Diego County Sheriff's Department Commander.
Here.
Thank you. And we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, I'd like to update the members and public on our new process for both member and public comment. The committee members will be using their cameras and we will take live public comments. Members are asked to turn on their cameras when they have a comment or a question, and then I will recognize you, or you may raise your hand using the button on the toolbar to make a public comment. With that, let's start with item number 2, approval of the meeting minutes from September 2, 2020. If a member of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand now. Okay, seeing none, if there are any management committee member comments, please turn on your camera. Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion. I didn't catch who did the motion, though. I apologize.
I didn't get, can
It's
they
Ray.
say their name?
Ray Sweeney, La Mesa.
Okay, motion by Sweeney and a second by Stainbrook.
Yes, sir.
I'll call on the clerk for the roll call of the vote, please. Barbara Jean?
Okay. Carlsbad PD
Aye.
Chief Galucci,
Yes.
Chula Vista PD Chief Kennedy,
Yes.
Coronado PD Captain Ochoa,
Yes.
El Cajon PD Chief Moulton,
Yes.
Escondido PD Captain Murphy,
Yes.
La Mesa PD Captain Sweeney,
Yes.
National City PD Chief Telez,
Yes.
Oceanside PD Chief McCoy,
Yes.
San Diego County District Attorney Joe Cargill,
Yes.
San Diego County Probation Department Chief Gonzalez,
Yes.
San Diego Harbor PD Chief Stainbrook,
Yes.
San Diego PD Assistant Chief Albrechtson,
Yes.
San Diego County Sheriff's Department Commander Teresa Adams Hadar.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara.
All approved.
Great. Item 3 on our agenda today is public and member comments regarding any issues within the jurisdiction of Sandag that is not on this agenda. If a member of the public would like to comment, please raise your hand now. Okay, seeing none, would any management committee member like to offer any comments? Great. If no further comments, moving on to item 4. Item 4 on our agenda is a report on the Public Safety Committee's meeting held on September 18, 2020. This report is from me. The Public Safety Committee held a Zoom meeting on September 18, 2020. Information agenda items included Sandy Keaton, Criminal Justice Research Manager at Sandag, presented an overview of mid-year 2020 regional crime stats. Caroline Stevens, Senior Research Analyst from Sandag, reported on regional progress made in transitioning from the Uniform UCR crime reporting to the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS. Karen Landers, San Diego Metropolitan Transit District, or MTS, presented an overview of the pilot fare evasion program implemented by San Diego MTS. The Public Safety Committee, scheduled for October 16, 2020, was canceled. The next PSC Zoom meeting is November 13, 2020 at 1 p.m. Are there any comments from any members of the public? Please raise your hand. Are there any management committee member comments? Please turn your camera on. If none, moving on to agenda item number 5. Item number 5 on our agenda is the UASI fiscal year 2021 law enforcement project review. So UASI project review and recommendation. Interim ARGIS Director Craig Carter will be presenting on this item. Craig?
Thank you, Chief Galucci. Appreciate it. I'll go quickly just to keep us on schedule. Want to cover the UASI funding that ARGIS is searching for and looking for approval from this committee. As we move forward with the process, there's a couple of items that we keep in mind that we have the grant funding. We don't know what it is yet as far as how much this year. It does change every year. But we have tentative timeframe between October and of 2021 through 2023 with anticipated funding sometime at the end of 2021 or first part of 2022. We've done some meetings already with UASI kickoff meetings on 9/23, and then the proposals were submitted. We are then moving off onto the Regional Technology Partnership December 8th and 9th. It should be on the calendars for the RTP members. And then the final UAG vote on December 16th. That should also be on your calendars if you're part of the UAG. Remember that the criteria for RTP is that it's a regional benefit. We can't supplant, and then we need that the feedback from the Chiefs and Sheriffs Group on the ranking. We usually do a priority of 1, 2, and 3, which will take place this afternoon. ARGIS is submitting several grants as we do every year. This year, we're going to do a regional public crime mapping. As you're aware that we are transitioning to NIBRS and state cybers, and it's going to take a lot of information that we weren't able to gather before, and we are now going to be able to push that information out to the public in near real time. With that information, we're going to have a mapping application that can be used countywide. So we're requesting funding for a crime mapping piece that will work with our new cybers and NIBRS data in order to get a little more transparency within our communities that we serve, as well as getting that real-time information so that crime trends can be detected earlier. We're looking at funding about $200,000, pending any further research we have. That may be an in-house product or a combination of both in-house and off the shelf. They'll be able to, all ARGIS member agencies will be able to leverage the transition of the application and result in significant cost savings within the region so that each agency is not doing their own mapping. We'll do that for everybody in the agency. The terrorist prevention is, again, having that real-time information, real-time crime data so that we can start to address issues as they arise and start to see crime trends that might result in some type of a terrorist act or countering some type of terrorism act. Second piece is the e-citation phase 2. Remember before we have e-citation phase 1, which was to put the app together. The application is in the final developments and will be pushed out for testing shortly. But the second piece is that we would like to get enhanced interface between the court systems and ARGIS, and send the mobile citations through the court system directly after it's gone to the record management group. The interface will be something that we've been working with the courts. We've been trying to get for years, and this will help us push that over to the finish line. We'll also provide agencies with portable printers with the citation application as well. The idea with this is that we finish the application, start the support of the other 70 contributing agencies, the funding for $200,000. Again, terrorism prevention, improve access to real-time information, increase situational awarenesses, and keep in mind that some of the 9/11 hijackers were in ARGIS for citations. So getting that information out quickly so that we can start keeping track of the individuals that we're stopping. The interface will also work on bringing the citations back to each individual agencies that we're not able to do right now. Next up is the ARGIS data storage. We currently maintain about 27 million records for each of the local jurisdictions, San Diego probation and DA, et cetera. That amount increases every year as we have new legislation and new requirements for keeping data. We also added three new agencies this year for contributing data, and we anticipate maybe 5 next year additional agencies. So that increase storage due to our NIBRs, the videos, photo and data storage, e-citation, and our FI app. We anticipate an increase in cloud storage as well as, in hard storage, but as well as looking at cloud storage. With that, again, we're looking for that enhanced security. We're trying to make sure that we keep the ARGIS data that you entrust us with as secure as possible. And we have several agencies that are bringing in new data with their records management systems and CAD systems such as Niche and Sunridge. We're looking at, I apologize, this number changed this morning. It's 715,000 in order to get the data storage correct, as well as looking at also going for some cloud storage as well. Department of Justice hasn't ruled on that yet, so we're anticipating that we might have an answer by the time this grant funding gets through there. So the total number is 715,000. Next up is the regional system training. Basically, that's what we've been doing for many years. We have, again, that 70 plus people that are agencies that are within ARGIS. And this year will be more critical than ever with cybers and NIBRs. So we're looking at putting together the training that will allow the different ARGIS apps, the mobile apps that we're doing with the eSite and FI, as well as cybers and NIBRs. We're also looking to put out information for the public as well, so that we can educate the public as well as the media on the new NIBRs and cybers data. We anticipate the need for more information as these two programs take place, and in NIBRs specifically will be in January. We feel that if we put the training together, the idea would be to hold a couple training sessions with our media partners so that they can then do the search through the NIBRs and cybers area and start to get their PRA requests done much quicker and eliminate a lot of PRAs through your individual agencies. So we hope that they'll attend, and we want to put that class together for them as well. That training funding is 150,000, and again, in that position for another 2 years, we'll continue with the training. Again, officers with terrorism prevention, officers have better understanding the data, the system used to track and identify potential criminal activity and terrorist activity, and then share that information throughout the county as well as with our media partners. The free text narrative search, this is a project that we're going to be looking at in-house as well as potentially off the shelf. This tool will help us identify records within the database that may contain identifying common reporting activities, and then see what their relevance or how they might be related. The idea is to take our citations, FIs, crime narratives, and come up with key phrases and words that can put things together in near real time. And the idea with that is if we're looking for domestic violence, it would search the narrative for domestic violence restraining orders, gun restraining orders. It'll look for anything that comes up with an injury and put those together to come up with commonalities, and then push those commonalities maybe to the detectives in the domestic violence unit, things that they should be looking for in order to start maybe whittling down who our crime suspects might be. But the idea is that once we have this database in place, that we will be able to search all of the records and come up with, if somebody's asking for specific things about domestic violence or terrorism, it would bring all the cases forward as potential search items for them. The free text narrative would be looking at $185,000 to get that project off the ground and push that to all of our users. As you're aware, we have several different data sets that could happen within our database, and how names are spelled and where they're located and how we spell the location, and whether it's California or CA. It would help to push that information and kind of data clean, as well as pushing it to the correct detective depending on what they're searching for. The next one is a joint effort between the Argus and San Diego County Sheriff's Office. In January of 2021, Argus will be going through a 6-month assessment of our security, as well as looking at our database and its vulnerability. We're responsible right now for over 2.5 billion transactions a year, and the data sharing between local and federal agencies is critical. So we're going to enhance our security, and we're going to do that as a combined effort with the San Diego Sheriff's Office. As you know, that record management system is going to be, a new one's going to be coming in, and we are going to have to secure that as well. And so working with the Sheriff's Department, we are going to combine our efforts in order to not duplicate efforts, hence saving some money, but also protecting our most vulnerable data in the RMS as well as the Argus side of the data. We all know that we've had breaches within this county, and Argus was one that was still up and able to supply data to those agencies. So it's critical that we continue to protect that. In this, we're going to be using some enhanced cybersecurity, both government and private sector entities, and they're going to form risk guidelines and then bring out what's best way to protect that information. We anticipate potentially an off-the-shelf, as well as some protection also through San Diego Sheriff's, as well as Argus for their RMS, as well as the Argus data. With that, we're looking at combined total of $1,450,000 for our Argus data and $550,000 for the San Diego Sheriff's and the RMS system. Regional benefit is obviously everybody that is on this call, protecting your data, and then also making sure that the terrorism prevention nexus would be to protect our cybersecurity system, which would protect all of our data from malware, hostile intrusion, and ransomware. We feel that we can't be too safe on this, and we want to make sure that we protect all of the data that you entrust us with. That's all the information that I have right now on what Argus requests, and can answer any questions if you have any.
Not hearing any questions. Are there any comments from members of the public?
I see no public comments.
Thank you, Barbara. Are there any management committee member comments? Okay, seeing none. If this is a discussion / possible action item, does the committee want to take any action at this time?
And Chair, we will need a motion to pass this to the chiefs and sheriffs. So we will need a vote approval for this to be forwarded for consideration for the Chiefs and Sheriffs Association.
Actually, Chief, I mean, Craig, I'm sorry, but we need a motion for the Public Safety Committee.
Correct. So we need a motion to recommend the Argus proposals to the Public Safety Committee for inclusions in the San Diego UASI grant submission to the Urban Area Working Group.
So this is Roxana Kennedy. I'll make the motion to approve and recommend.
This is
I will second it.
Jose Tejas, second.
So Chief Kennedy with the motion, Chief Tejas with the second. Can we take a vote, please?
So can I ask a question real quick, Neil?
Sure, Frank, go ahead.
So I just think we have to keep in mind, I mean, we're looking for Argus, we're looking at 2.49 million. And then when you add in LECC, it's over 4 million. And that's way over the 25% of what our normal allotment would be. And that's not even throwing in any of the other requests that other agencies have asked for. So we just need to keep that in mind, that if we approve all of the Argus stuff, we approve the 2 LECC stuff, we're done.
Chief, can I address that?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, that Chief McCoy, that's the 25% is kind of that recommendation. It's never been there. It's in our county, in our region, we tend to be a little bit higher, usually around 50%, sometimes higher than that. So I can't anticipate what that number will be, but it's never been at the 25%. That's the minimum they have to do, but it's always been higher than that. Also, keep in mind that this is a recommendation to pass it to the Chiefs and Sheriffs Committee this afternoon, who make the final decision, not this group. If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. And I've done this for a couple of years. So I know it's usually a little higher than 25%, but not much. But I don't have any problem with what we're doing at this point.
Okay, any other member comments? All right, hearing none. Barbara Jean, can you take roll?
Yes, I will. Carlsbad PD, Chief Galucci.
Yes.
Chula Vista PD, Chief Kennedy.
Yes.
Coronado PD, Captain Ochoa.
Yes.
El Cajon PD, Chief Moulton.
Yes.
Escondido PD, Captain Murphy.
Yes.
La Mesa PD, Captain Sweeney.
Yes.
National City PD, Chief Teles.
Yes.
Oceanside PD, Chief McCoy.
Yes.
San Diego County District Attorney Joe Cargill.
Yes.
San Diego County Probation Chief Gonzalez.
Yes.
San Diego Harbor PD Chief Stainbrook.
Yes.
San Diego PD Assistant Chief Sandra Albertson.
Yes.
San Diego County Sheriff's Department Commander Teresa Adams Hadar.
Yes.
Thank you. It passes all unanimous.
Thank you, Barbara.
And then Neil, can I ask one other question?
Sure, go ahead, Frank.
So, hey, Craig, on the data storage request, what videos do you guys store?
I'll ask Katie to answer that one for me, Frank.
Yeah, the only videos that we're really storing now are on our law enforcement only portal. So when say there was a robbery or something, and there was a video that came up that case, we posted on our portal, but we've been getting increasing questions about and requests to allow us to build out our portal. So that's like the one-stop shop where you log into Argus, where our users can, for instance, there's a page that the crime analysts want, where they want to be able to have their own page where they post videos of different crime trends that are happening in the region. And right now we don't really have the capacity to handle that. So we probably start there and just as to pilot that and see how that goes. But I think more of the issue is that we're getting new agencies that want to contribute data, and we're running out of space. And I think we also want to continue adding new LPR agencies. I mean, that can go through the sheriff to feed us data, and that's a lot. Like Carlsbad, you have very many records. So our goal is to be able to handle everything, and right now we don't have the capacity to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Frank, what were you thinking? Were you thinking like BWC video, LPR data? What was your, like, specifically, what were you curious about?
Well, I mean, it's almost $1 million for storage. And I
Gotcha.
didn't know that that Argus was storing any data. I know we all pay for data storage for body worn cameras and other things. I didn't know if this was something to lay the groundwork where we would all share our BWC video to Argus, so we wouldn't have to bear that responsibility, or I just didn't know where it was going.
Gotcha, I understand. So Katie, just to specify, this is just to, basically, the $1 million is just to handle the data that's already coming in, correct?
Yes, and sorry, it's an airplane going over my house. And to enhance it so that we can accept more videos and so that we can accept some reads from Carlsbad. Like, we're reaching capacity, and I think, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, because I just got back from vacation yesterday. Is this a scalable project?
It is, and also I would add to Chief McCoy's that we don't disagree that it would probably be better if we could actually have a one-stop shop for our body worn camera video, and this certainly would be the next step for that as well. One portion of this, about $120,000, is for cloud, basically getting that started. If that happens, then we could come back in a year and ask for additional funding for storage that could bring in your body worn camera, and we could house that. So we're not opposed to that as well.
All right, thanks, Craig. Any other comments from the committee members? Okay, item number 6 on our agenda is a report by Dr. Burke regarding drug use among arrestee population in San Diego County. Dr. Burke?
Hi, thank you. I think, Craig, are you going to pull up? There it is. Nice to virtually see everybody. It's been a long time. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we've released the majority of our SAM publications. We are going to be working with the Meth Strike Force coming up, as well as HIDA, sharing some of our data as part of our press releases. I believe everybody knows about the background for the study, how it used to be conducted nationally, and we've been the only site to keep it going uninterrupted. Since 2000 is when we improved our sampling procedures. It's the only objective measure of drug use that we have over time. And we are able to add other questions over time. We have, with COVID, been able to go back and do some safety procedures. Our sample sizes will be smaller with 2020 data, but we are excited that we are going to have some information still to continue to share over time, because we didn't want to lose any significant data points. You can go to the next slide. So just to let you know, for our 2019 sample, which is the data I'll be sharing here and at the PSC. So if you have thoughts for when this does go to the policymakers, given the complexity of drug use and crime and different legislative changes, please let me know. But we spoke to over 450 adults. About 2/3 of those were males, consistent with the population. We like to highlight, this is the highest charge when they were booked into jail. This isn't just individuals who are obviously booked for drug crimes. And we talked to just over 100 juveniles. The other thing when we're looking at this data is just to really take into consideration how the juvenile system has changed so much. That fewer youth are being detained. We're looking at in 2021, potentially going into some of the achievement centers in the community to try to supplement our other data collection efforts. And then also, obviously, with our local detention system changing from just being a local jail to also a local prison, that could also change some of the data here. And just real quickly, I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Department and the Probation Department for their continued support of this program, because without that, we would not be able to do the work that we do. Next slide, please. Craig.
Yeah, it was hanging up.
Were you reading the paper?
Yeah.
So this shows 20 years of data that we have for positive for any drug, and that includes marijuana, which we justify because it's still illegal federally, cocaine, crack, methamphetamine, PCP, as well as opiates. And all 3 of our populations, adult males, adult females, and juveniles, had 20-year highs in the percent positive. Males went from 76% to 79%. So almost every 4 in 5 males booked into Central or Vista jail were positive for some drug. Females, 82%, another all-time high, and juveniles went up to 62%. If you could go to the next slide, please. This slide shows the percentage positive for the adult males and females with some key dates highlighted. And obviously there have been so many changes. We couldn't put every legislative change on here, but significantly AB 109, Prop 47, which I know you all are familiar with. And when I presented the PSC, I'll explain that. And then Prop 64. But when Prop 47 passed, I did think, oh, is it possible we're going to see lower rates, and really showing the high correlation between any drug use and criminal behavior, that it's not just individuals getting booked into jails just because they're using drugs. You can see that prior to Prop 47 really being passed in 2014, we had 68 and 69% positive for any substance, and then how those rates have continued to generally increase over time. So we're actually seeing a higher need population related to drug use in our detention system, not lower. Next slide, please. And this is another slide I like to share whenever I speak to any of the media groups or community groups, is that regardless of why someone was booked into jail, whether it's violent, property, drug, or other, most of those individuals are positive for drugs. So it's not just like individuals who are arrested for a drug offense are actually positive for that drug. And the same is true for multiple offenses. And actually those who were arrested for violent were least likely to have the multiple drugs in their system. Next slide, please. So kind of going into detail on some of the drug data that we have here, and hopefully this is useful for all of your jurisdictions to some degree. Marijuana is the drug of choice for juveniles in our system. You can see that was a 20-year high of 57% positive in 2019. Males were down slightly from 48% the year prior to 45%, and adult females were up slightly to 39%. Next slide, please. We try to put a lot of prevention data out there because most of the data just comes from schools, which is obviously more general population, but we're able to get a lot more detail here. So looking at what's been traditionally known as the three gateway drugs, marijuana, alcohol, tobacco, you can see the greatest percentage say that they've ever tried marijuana. 58% last year said that marijuana was the first drug they tried even before alcohol. The average age of first use. And then what I really try to emphasize when I speak to the media is how often that the youth who are smoking pot or vaping it or however they're using it are using it about every other day on average. And when you think about the THC levels in developing brains, it is a scary statistic. And then how easy they say it is to obtain. Next slide, please. We asked them, we started asking back in 2007, how bad do you think different drugs are for you? And you can see they have the least perception of harm in regards to marijuana. Only 17% thought it could be extremely bad or very bad for somebody. Next slide, please. And then when we look over time, comparing 2007 to 2019, the perception of harm has gone down for alcohol and tobacco as well as marijuana, but not nearly to the same degree. So we're very careful to not talk about causation, but this is a pretty strong correlation related, we think, to medical marijuana use being made legal and now recreational. Next slide, please. These were some new questions that we added last year, and showing just how high this is for juveniles specifically. 3/4 of the juveniles say that they've ever vaped. How often they're vaping. About half are saying that they're vaping at school. The perception that it's not harmful, that they prefer it to smoking it to cigarettes. And so just again, some more data and statistics to try to share with policymakers as well as parents and educators. We did add additional questions because I know the county's been looking at trying to do some citations and rules about like where are teens getting the vaping products and are they doing it online or in store. So we've added some additional questions that we'll have in 2020. Next slide, please. Turning to adult data on marijuana, we thought this was an important statistic to add into our analysis. So we do want to emphasize that most of the individuals who are the adults who are testing positive for marijuana are also testing positive for some other type of drug. 2 and 3, only 1 in 3 only tested positive for marijuana. So those individuals are coming into the system are most likely testing positive for marijuana and meth, not just marijuana. Next slide, please. Potency, which is obviously a big thing, and how the THC levels have increased such a degree. And this is a statistic that can be cited. 68% of the adult arrestees do say that the potency has increased since they've been using marijuana. Next slide. And I think this is an interesting one, talking about the different ways that individuals can get marijuana. The pie chart to the left shows that when we ask them, do you just have one way that you get marijuana, or do you get it multiple ways? You can see it's about almost evenly split, that 45% said that they do get it in multiple ways. The blue bars on the left show how many said that they use that method at all, and that should say every past 12 months. And you can see that 2/3, almost equal percentages, said that they either got it on the street or through a recreational dispensary. And then when we say, what was your preferred method, there was a slight preference for recreation dispensaries, most often because it's convenient, or they have more of a choice or selection, but still 1 in 3 still say they prefer just buying it on the street, many times because they don't have to pay the taxes. Next slide, please. After we went to Colorado prior to Prop 64 passing, we got a lot of baseline questions. So these are one of the additional questions that we added over time. About half of the arrestees think that marijuana does impact a person's ability to drive. The other half think it does not have an impact. And then we also asked, have you ever driven under the influence? And so I think this statistic can be pretty sobering, that even when they think it does impact their driving, the set of boxes on the left, about 2 in 5 still say that they've driven under the influence of marijuana. And then you can see that it's slightly higher. 53% of those who think it doesn't impact their driving is still driven under the influence of marijuana. Next slide, please. Turning to meth. Meth was at 20-year highs for adult males and females, which explains the overall percentage positive. 68%, 2 in 3 of women booked into Las Colinas in 2019 were positive for meth. And when, again, I speak to the news stations, I always try to emphasize this isn't tried it. It has not just who's used it in the past 30 days, but actually positive for it. 55% of males. Next slide, please. And then we try to describe the average meth user just to show how addictive this drug is, and how it's really such a population in need who's so addicted to it that they've been using it an average of 15 years. The individuals who are ending up in the justice system have used it 3 times a day, 15 days in a row. We added the question about how much they got last time for their own personal use to potentially be used in court systems when the Costco defense is used of, oh, I have all this meth because I'm using it for myself, to have some kind of baseline that could potentially be cited. 3/4 of those who did have a job or went to school said that they'd gone to work or school under the influence. And then about 1 in 3 said that they do carry a weapon when they're obtaining meth. Next slide, please. This was an interesting statistic. So back in 2012 and prior to that, we'd always seen that it was meth was primarily the drug of choice for Caucasian or white arrestees. But as time has gone on, we've seen that those racial differences have changed, and a high percentage of both the Black and Hispanic individuals who are booked into our justice system are also testing positive for meth. So it's not just a drug of choice for the Caucasian white arrestees. Next slide, please. And then we did a big CJ flash last year, and this just kind of highlights some updated data that I shared with the Meth Strike Force. And it's kind of the chicken or egg question. We know that we added a question this year about, have you ever had a drug induced psychosis? People trying to self-medicate, but just showing that those who say that they've ever tried meth are more likely to say that they've ever been diagnosed with a mental health issue. They are more likely to say they've ever stayed overnight in a mental health facility, and they're also more likely to say that they've had a prior suicide ideation attempt. Next slide, please. Opiates, our percentage here is still down considerably compared to the rest of the country, but you can see that we've almost doubled. Females were slightly more likely to test positive for opiates at 15% than males at 11% in 2019. Next slide, please. Again, when we historically, I first started doing these interviews in 1992 when I started working at Sandag, and we always saw it was the older arrestees, which for those of you who've been around a while can probably relate to, but with a greater increase in prescription drug abuse, that's changed so much. So it used to be the percentage who are most likely to be positive for opiates were the 25 to 39 or 40 and over. And you can see that that's actually switched, and now we have higher percentages for those in the 25 to 39 and under 25 than 40 and over. And next slide, please. And we're also seeing that the younger arrestees are more likely to also self-report ever abusing prescription drugs. Next slide, please. And then about 1 in 3 of the individuals who say that they've ever used heroin did say that they used prescription drugs first. They started using the heroin as a substitute to the prescription drugs. Oxy, Vicodin, and Percocet were the most common ones that had been used prior to the heroin use. And then they did switch because it was easier or cheaper to get the heroin than it was the prescription drug at some point. Next slide, please. Some questions on fentanyl, and saw the recent scary video at Seconds in Command of what happens when someone comes into contact with fentanyl. We started asking questions in 2018 about if you knew a drug contained fentanyl, would you purchase it? When we first added that question in 2018, 69% said no, 31% said they still would. So the good news is at least among some individuals, there seems to be greater education and knowledge about the dangers of fentanyl use, that 89% now said no, most often because it's dangerous. Some still didn't know what it was. It's not their drug of choice, or they just didn't want to. But still, some do say it's their drug of choice. It's a strong high. They're curious. It's cheap, so they would still use it. Next slide, please. We added new questions in 2019, and I thought this was a pretty compelling statistic. Almost greater than 1 in 4 said that they had ever taken a drug that they had not been told it contained fentanyl. They didn't think it contained fentanyl, but then depending on how they reacted to it, they thought that it possibly did have it. The fentanyl testing strips to see if a drug contains fentanyl. Only 4% said that they had ever used those, but almost half said that they would like to have access to those if they could. And then we also did add questions about knowingly purchasing counterfeit pills, and we found that 3% said that they had done that. And this is the last slide that I like sharing with community groups and the PSC, because many times I may hear from individuals who think that the drug use should be totally, decriminalized, is just really showing it some of the correlations and how it affects everybody, even if you're not involved in the justice system or don't think you know anybody in the justice system. And this shows the percentages for those adult arrestees who tested positive for any drug, and just how many are homeless. So showing the correlation between many of our social issues, how many have children, speaking to the generational succession of how things could go on. How individuals who could be providing care to your parent or working in the restaurant or building your house are going to work or drunk high, committing crime to support their drug habits, having a child welfare services case, going to the ER because of alcohol or drug related issues, missing work, and then also having an overdose. So that is my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope the data was useful and interesting. Did I put everybody to sleep?
All right, slow to the mute button. Great job.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public?
No member comments.
Thank you, Barbara. Are there any management committee member comments or discussion? Okay, not seeing any cameras come on. If none, this is an information item only. Moving on to item number 7. Item number 7 on our agenda is the update on September 22nd and October 20 business working group meetings. Ken Amiraj will present.
Good morning, members of the committee. Just to give a quick recap on our business working group meeting. So we had a special meeting on September 22nd, and that was to address an issue related to the 10851 vehicle thefts reporting. We noticed some discrepancies. Actually, an agency noticed some discrepancies in the reporting of 10851s due to programmatic change back in November of 2019. And we investigated with the sheriffs and then found out that it was a little bit wider, affecting other agencies, worked with agencies at the business working group, and we came up with a solution to reclassify certain crime cases when a vehicle had been recovered in another jurisdiction and it was classified as an additional vehicle theft rather than from just a recovery. And so that was double counting those 10851s. I spoke to our programmer, Dan Sue, this morning, and he's happy to report that things are going well. The cases have been resubmitted or will be resubmitted, and that the reporting is back on track. And our solution worked from everything that we can tell at this point. And that's more or less it from that meeting on the 22nd. It was a one-topic meeting. The meeting on October 20th was our standard meeting. We provided a brief Argus update. And one of the things that came out of the 10851 reporting issue is that we wanted to be more open with our programmatic changes. So in our deployment of new program changes, every 2 weeks, we will share that with all of the member agencies, all the core member agencies, and all the member agencies that receive our updates through Argus announcements, so that their IT folks can watch and notice if any changes or issues occur as a result of any programmatic changes. And in the world of computing, when you fix one thing, it sometimes can affect something else. So this will help to have better oversight and all eyes on the issue to keep things in track. We provided an update on 2 of our applications, which we're rewriting prior to the end of the year, and we'll be scheduling training for user agencies or member agencies for those. We also provided a notice that we'll be providing Cognos training, and we're opening that up for people. And Cognos is an application for detailed data analysis. So we've just set dates for those people. It's very helpful for crime analysis positions in the region. Then I'm happy to report that we had a suggestion from Carlsbad PD to host BOL notices that come in from neighboring counties. We already get some of those through Carlsbad PD and occasionally other sources, but we're going to set aside on our SharePoint. We're going to actually bring this up at the next meeting for a vote to share selected be on the lookout notices from neighboring counties. This is particularly helpful in the northern county regions and where there's crime series that affect all Southern California, where people can go to those areas of our web portal and review those other BOLs from other counties without getting another 20 emails a day in their inbox of BOLs from neighboring counties. So that'll help everyone in terms of investigations and so forth. The next main 3 topics we discussed are something we call the 1970 rule. And this was discovered, and not discovered, but discussed back in April of 2020, in which cases older than 1970 are not able to enter into the Argus database automatically. And this is, we did some analysis as to why 1970 was chose, but it also prevents miscellaneous errors from data entry and older cases getting submitted. So we had approval from Business Working Group to have a form to incorporate those cases manually. And we have one agency with 2 cases prior to 1970 that we've submitted that, and they've approved the form at Business Working Group for that. Last 2 items, one was relating to Tarasoff report coding. And for those of you not familiar, Tarasoff, of course, is the case law decision requiring that, or at least authorizing that therapists can provide or should provide notice to possible victims when their patient may voice some intent to harm an individual. So the therapist would then contact the law enforcement agency of jurisdiction, and then an information report would be generated. And apparently there's some reporting requirements with the state DOJ. So Sergeant Joel Tien from San Diego PD had requested that we create a special coding, what we call ZZ coding, in order to track those reports, so that that will be easier to compile those DOJ reports and analyze any of the Tarasoff information reports that are generated. And so the board voted to approve that. And finally, at the request of the Business Working Group members, we discussed the differences between contributing member agencies and participating member agencies, and moving forward into the future, the various voting responsibilities of contributing members. And most recently, with the addition of San Diego County District Attorney's Office and San Diego County Probation, as well as with San Diego State University Police Department, agencies that contribute data and what role they'll play on the Business Working Group and so forth. So that was more or less just a discussion of some of the challenges that we have going forward. And we reviewed some policy and some of our requirements in our MOU and discussed some of the concerns of the agencies when we admit those additional members and change them from participating members to contributing members. And that concludes my report.
Chief
Thank you,
Galucci,
Dan.
Chief Galucci, can I add to
Appreciate it.
that? Chief Galucci, can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
I just also want a little bit of a shout out for the Business Working Group. Every agency has members that participate in this group, and they are very diligent on your records keeping. And very attentive. They don't miss anything. So good on you as leaders for putting them in that position and allowing them to speak for your agencies. They do a great job, and Argus would have a harder time doing their job if it wasn't for this good group. So thank you for that.
Great. Are there any comments from members of the public on this item?
I see no member comments.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Are there any management committee member comments or discussion? I also would like to thank the Business Working Group. There's quite a comprehensive report today, and I think it's great that we're going to be able to host the BOLs from neighboring counties, and the TerraSoft issues is a really important one for all of us right now. So thank you on that. This brings us to item 8. The next management committee member meeting is currently scheduled for Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020 at 9:45 a.m. And unless there's any further comments, we are going to adjourn. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.